All right, everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. Thanks for tuning back in. Now, over the last 5 months, I've went from zero fly fishing ever to pretty much fly fishing probably almost every day. And I want to go over some of the things that I've learned, some that are bullshit, some that are true that you've heard about fly fishing, and just the general consensus of how I feel about it at the end of the day.
This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview conservationists, hunters, anglers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the greatest stories, information, and advice from the best in the world.
When I first got a fly rod in my hand, I got a TFO NXT Black Label combo, one of the mid-range combos. I still use it all the time, absolutely love it. And I thought you had to fly fish for trout, which commonly is like a 5-weight fly rod. Everybody seems to start with a 5-weight fly rod, and you're using all these mini flies, and casting's a pain in the ass. And then I realized very quickly that there are not many trout around Northwest Ohio, and I wasn't about to drive 5 hours in any direction to go find them, and I didn't even know how to cast yet. So the first thing that I learned is you can fly fish for anything. You can literally fly fish for bluegill. I do it almost every day at the pond across the street from my house. Absolutely love it. They're so fun to play with on the fly rod. They're great to learn with. They take anything you throw at them, essentially, if they're feeding. And it's just a great way to learn how to set the hook. It's a great way to learn how to cast into tight little holes and weeds and stuff. Really a great place to start, honestly. I think I've learned more from fly fishing for bluegill than I have going out and trying to catch trout or trying to catch bass or whatever. They're a little more tough on the fly rod, to me anyway. So, other things that I've learned is that I do enjoy fly fishing for smallmouth and largemouth, which are abundant where I live in Northwest Ohio. They're a little more challenging than bluegill. You have to throw a little bit, well, not always, but you generally are throwing a little bit bigger of flies, which is its own set of challenges on a 5-weight rod. So it's always fun. And then just anytime you can fish for a fish that's native and regionally to where you're at is a lot more fun. I know up north in Michigan, there's trout, east and west in Ohio on some of the bigger rivers, Cleveland, Columbus areas, there's trout south. Fairly confident that those are probably stocked. So it's fun to fish for the native fish, learn what makes them tick. I've been bass fishing for a very long time now, and it's fun to catch them still on crankbaits and worms and stuff like that. Love it. Never going to stop doing that. It's just a whole new challenge doing them on fly rods. So you don't have to specifically fish for trout, even though that's sort of what fly fishing is based around. And if you listen to a couple episodes ago with Nick Meinsinger, you can learn all about trout on the fly or traditional fishing. It's awesome. So that's the first fallacy. Don't have to fish for trout. Next thing, that before I ever fly fish, one of the main reasons that I didn't want to start fly fishing was because everyone told me how expensive it is. And if you tally up how much stuff I've spent on traditional fishing, if we're including rods, reels, crankbaits, kayak accessories, boats, things of that nature, pretty expensive. A cheap bag of worms is $4 for plastic worms, and I have a bag full of them. So just puts it right there. For the amount of soft plastics I have and crankbaits alone, you could buy an entry-level fly rod. And generally speaking, a fly rod combo is going to be a little more expensive than an introductory level spinning combo. But you can get really, really cheap ones to around the $70 range, which if you're just trying to figure out if you want to fly fish, go for it. Because if you don't like it, you're only out $70 instead of $250. So that's always an option. Definitely not going to be the sturdiest rod and probably a little bit of a pain in the ass to cast once you get better. But if you don't know, then it's totally worth it to start out at that level. I started with a mid-range, I would say, combo kit. It was about $250, like I said earlier. And I would say that's going to be about 150 to 250 is going to be about your average entry level kit. I mean, they have companies like Redington making great entry level combos for like $100. There's TFO. Orvis has entry level combos that are in that price range, and they have the Clearwater series, I think, is a little more pricey, coming in at like $350, but I've heard amazing things about that. I don't own that. I own a bunch of entry level rods. I own a 3-weight from Bass Pro. That's just their White River series, whatever, rod, reel, and line, everything. And that's the one I use to play around with bluegill and stuff. And then I own that TFO 5-weight combo, and I also own a Redington Wrangler 8-weight that I just bought, which I'm having a lot of fun with that thing. Those are all decent level, entry level combos because, of course, now that I'm obsessed with it and I do it all the time, I wanted to have that range of rods, just like you'd want to have a range of rods for fishing, traditional fishing, so you can do different things. You're going to want a heavier rod to hog them fish out of the weeds or wherever they get tangled up in. You're going to want lighter rods for finesse fishing and all the different variations. Same thing with fly rods, really no different. And then now I did some podcast work for a friend. He traded me a very high-end rod. We're talking the whole outfit ran about $750 when you count the reel, the line, the backing. The custom rod itself was like $500. So definitely a huge change in quality when you get into that more high-end stuff.
Wake up early before the sun comes up. Then you drink a little coffee, fire the gator tail up, then you hit it on out where no man goes. Gator tail flying and the rooster crows.
I'm a little scared to use it sometimes because it's so nice. But, you know, just to get out of the way, it doesn't have to be super expensive. You can start out with the cheap flies off Amazon. I carry around because I also let a lot of people use my stuff to try and see if they like fly fishing that I know. $22 box of flies. They fall apart. They might stay on top of the water for 2 casts. But, I mean, they're not great. But you're going to lose a lot of flies when you start. So it's a good place to go instead of spending. You go to a fly shop and even just a standard woolly booger is going to cost you $6, $5, $4. You know, you lose a couple in a tree, you're out $20. So if you get a little case to start with, it's really affordable. Again, just to see if you like it. Another thing with fly fishing, which you can run into in any outdoors activity. I've run into this with bow hunters. I've run into this with traditional fishing. I've run into this in backpacking. I've run into this in every endeavor I've ever done in the outdoors is elitist. They're always going to be there. I play at a freaking heavy metal band. Elitists everywhere. It's just part of everything. There's always people that are going to think they know more than you or better than you. They're going to always want to have the most expensive equipment that's going to be nicer than yours. Who gives a shit? They're going to be there. Yes, I've run into these people in fly fishing. You're going to run into it at everything. You run into them at your job. You run into them at the grocery store. They're everywhere. They're always a facet of society. You can't escape them. But overall, most of the people that I went out with have been awesome, really chill. They just really like the sport, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. If you like catching fish, in my opinion, it's another way to catch fish, and it's a fun way to catch fish. Has not been a huge problem. Even online, I posted a clip on Instagram a few weeks ago. I try and post, these clips on Instagram and all the other social media accounts, whatever bullshit out there. And me and a friend having a conversation, and he simply said, fly fishing's a little more challenging, which I would agree with. Talk about that in a second. And then he recommended that people, if they've never fished before, which is generally not this audience, but people who've never fished before, maybe go out and get a cheap rod and reel and traditional fishing setup and just catch fish to see what that's like first before getting all wrapped up in the intricacies and the rabbit holes of fly fishing, which are endless at this point. There's learning new things every day at this point, which is part of the adventure. It's part of the fun. And people came out of the woodwork just blowing this dude up, saying he's an elitist and he's gatekeeping the sport. It's wild. It just gets wild out there on the internet. You people love to be mad sometimes. It's pretty interesting to watch, honestly. But, it just goes to show that, like, people were saying that he was an elitist, even though I really don't agree. I just kind of agree with his statement. It is complicated to start, more so than just tossing a lure out, but whatever. That's beside the point. If you want to start fly fishing right out the gate, go ahead. Nobody's going to stop you. It's still going to be a fun time. You'll probably just be a little more frustrated, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, like, people were calling him an elitist, so there's kind of like a self-policing side of that, but you're going to find that in anything. Again, that's people. So I haven't really run into it. I'm not really that worried about it. If there are elitists out there, I don't really care. I probably won't ever fish with you or hang out with you or like you. So that's your own problem and my own problem. As it relates to difficulty, I would say the only thing more difficult about fly fishing is learning to cast, which, again, at the end of the day, don't think is that hard. Yes, if you're trying to do like a 150-foot double haul all the way to the cross of a river that's going 1,000 miles an hour, yeah, that's kind of hard. Also, casting a bait caster is kind of hard when you first start. Shit, it's still hard. I still bird nest the shit out of that thing every once in a while. Just have a bad day sometimes. It's all just a matter of, as Nick Meinsinger, I love this phrase he said on the podcast, quarters in the slot. You just go out there and do it. And I learned this lesson when I was at Beaver's Bend in Oklahoma. For the first time I ever went fly fishing with my good friend Chester Moore. We're actually working on a short documentary about that right now. That'll be out in a few months. First time ever fly fishing, my casting was sloppy. It's still not the greatest casting in the world. But we're out on the river. There's tons of people out there. And I was practicing trying to do these big 50-foot casts, 60-foot casts. And essentially I'm casting 8 feet in front of me, 10 feet in front of me, the length of my rod, essentially just letting the fly float down the stream. And everybody was doing that. Nobody was really that good of a caster out there that I saw. A lot of beginners out there since the pandemic. It's just everybody's new, everybody's starting, everybody's out there hoping they don't look stupid while they do it. It's really not that difficult. Anybody can get a fly rod, just tool around for an hour out on the water and end up casting a distance. I took my brother out twice. He never touched a fly rod in his life. And the second time we went out, he was probably already casting like 30, 40 feet, which is great. I didn't give him really any tips. I just kind of showed him the basics and let him at it. And he did fine. It was awesome. So don't let that discourage you. It's not that hard. You're going to, feel stupid for the first hour. And then you're like, I kind of got the hang of this. Then you'll get cocky with it, get it hung up in a tree, realize that you probably don't have it down that well, because I still do that all the time. So yeah, it's really not that hard. Don't let that stop you. If you ever have even considered doing it, not as difficult as people make it sound.
Hey, what's up everyone? James Appleton here, co-founder of Absolute Aid. Welcome to the Seek to Do More program. This program will help you help yourself by developing the daily habits that will elevate your entire life. Over the next 30 days, you'll complete the doers list every single day. And the doers list includes 1, do something physical. 2, follow and stick to your diet of choice. 3, read a real book. 4, further your education on purpose. 5, dedicate time to your spiritual life. And 6, dedicate time to your hobbies. So if you're ready to take a structured, proven approach to build the daily habits that will allow you to get the most out of yourself, your time, and your life every single day, the Seek to Do More program is your blueprint. So make a choice, commit to yourself, sign up below, and let's get started.
One of the major things that I personally love about it, aside from the challenge, the fun, is it's so easy to travel with. I literally have 3 fly rods in my car right now. These rods behind me, if you're watching this on YouTube, stacked against the wall. Yes, some of them break in half. Some of them are nicer. Some of them are one-piece rods. You've all driven with them in your car. If you don't have a truck or something, they're just poking you in the face. They slide off the seat, or you put them on the other side of the headrest near the door, and you're terrified of snapping them in half if you were to open the door and forget about them. Yeah, I mean, it's fly rods. If they're combo 4 pieces, whatever, fold up super small. I have a 2-piece rod, still easier to travel with than these regular rods, which I never break down because it's a huge pain in the ass. So very easy to travel with. And last time I went to ICAST in Florida a few weeks ago, and I brought my 5-weight combo, the TFO combo, and I was freaking out before we went on the plane because they said this is a completely full flight. We will not be accepting any extra carry-on items. You better have your carry-on and you better have your personal item, and that's it. And I'm like, well, I have my carry-on. I have my personal item, which was an empty cooler to bring home fish, which you can listen to that story with Derek in the last episode, Derek York. Great time fishing offshore. I never do that. It was terrifying and fun, and I almost threw up. But I strapped it to my backpack. I always fly with a backpack. They never force me to check my bag. I always have expensive, laptop and stuff with me. I don't want to get that forced to have that checked. I've never had them check a backpack ever. It's a bigger backpack. It's the Osprey, whatever their frickin' carry-on style backpack is, whatever. Friggin' love that thing. I shoved the rod through the straps, tightened it down, walked right on the plane. No one said anything. Nobody even cared that it was on my backpack. And then as soon as I went to put it in the overhead bin, unclip the buckles, shove the rod on top of my pack, no problems. It's a semi-hard case, so it's keeping everything nice and safe. Probably got crushed by 5 other people's bags when it fell down behind, and they're shoving their bags in. Totally fine. There and back, same scenario. Completely full flights, no extra items. No problems. And it was even on Delta, which is notably, if you look online on forums for flying with fly equipment, they're one of the finickier ones. And that also made me nervous. No problem. So easy to travel with. I put the flies in my carry-on. I put forceps in my carry-on. I put my whole chest pack in there to carry all the stuff around when I'm fishing out in God knows where. I'm always roaming around randomly. No issues at all whatsoever. So definitely worth it in that aspect. And I keep them in my car. I keep some of the lower end fly rods in my car because I never know where I'm going to be. I might just hop out on the river after going to the gym or something, wade in for an hour and see what's out there. It's just easy to take with you. When I fish with traditional fishing tackle, I'm taking, 3-4 big Plano boxes with crankbaits and jigs and whatever I think I'll need for that day. I'm usually bringing a handful of rods because I'm switching lures so much, and it's just an ordeal. And I'm not complaining. I love fishing like that anyway. It's just more stuff to bring. It's very simple. You put the rod together, pull the line out, tie on a little fly, and just give her hell for an hour or two, and usually end up catching something fun. So one of the huge bonuses for me. Just sort of wrap things up and just say fly fishing has changed my opinion about fishing a lot. It makes you a little bit more in tune with what the fish are doing, and you're generally close range fishing. I mean, you're trying to catch fish that you can see most of the time, unless if you're Northwest Ohio native and you fish the Maumee River, that's just impossible. It's pretty damn near impossible to see fish unless you're stepping right on top of them, which I almost did a weekend ago. And it's interesting to see the fish, to cast to a fish, to watch them chase or eat your fly right there. it just lets you watch fish at a closer range than ripping crankbaits with deep diving crankbaits at 12, 15 feet. I can't see down that far. I have no idea what the fish are doing. It's interesting to watch them. The coolest thing that I've ever seen on the fly is I was casting off a dock over some weeds with a shallow running little streamer. And this bass I watched it in clear water, just follow the fly, follow. And then he ate it. I felt a tap. I set the hook and I watched myself fight the fish all the way to the dock. It was amazing. And it's just a different perspective on fishing, and you have to be a little more, I don't want to say in tune. You just got to be a little more stealthy and a little more quiet, especially if you're wading. It's just more intimate with the fish, and it's fun, and I really enjoy it. And all the time I say I can't get enough catching bluegill. It's so fun, especially on that 3-weight. It's just super fun. I want to get like a 1-weight. I know it's designed for trout fishing in very close quarters and hard to reach, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. I want to fight a bluegill on a 1-weight rod. That sounds amazing. I'll probably do it. And I'll probably make a podcast about it because I'm just so into that right now. I don't know why. Probably come in phases. If you've listened to this podcast for a long time, I get into everything. Duck hunting last year, deer hunting, fishing, all this stuff just comes in waves. But right now, I absolutely love fly fishing. I would like you to try it if you've thought about it. Get the cheap combo. Go out there, have fun, catch a fish. It's a completely different experience. And, I can't say enough about it. And to close, I'm not saying that fly fishing is superior. I don't think there is a superior fishing method. Fishing is fishing. If you like fishing, fish any way you want. If you go out on a charter boat for salmon or trout out in, Grand Traverse Bay, you're having, 10-pound friggin' sinkers sink down 50 feet trying to catch these huge fish while you're trolling. Still fishing. If you can catch fish, that's a superior method, in my opinion. I'm not really concerned with all the politics of it. It's just new and fun ways to do it. So yeah, pretty much whatever. I don't have that opinion on a lot of stuff. Just go out, have fun, and do it. So if you learn anything, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. I got shorter clips out there of stuff coming out with the podcast, more how-to information. I've been trying to hammer on that stuff a little more. And, I've had so many great guests over the years, and there's so much good information that they put out. I go back and listen sometimes trying to figure out some of the stuff they told for free online to learn to make me a better hunter, fisherman, angler, whatever you want to call it. And hopefully you guys learned something about that. So go over there, got the YouTube channel. I'm starting to break out all of that information into short, digestible clips that aren't an hour long. I know it's a long time. And, I got some documentaries coming out. I know I say that all the time. One is completely finished. We're trying to get it into some film festivals. So if you know of any film festivals that take hunting specific documentaries, hit me up. I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Just hit me up. I would love to try and get it into some of that stuff. I'm working on a fly fishing documentary right now. Working on some more stuff also behind the scenes, taking up a lot of time. So thank you guys for listening. Be back soon with another episode.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. If you're getting anything out of this, if you're learning something, if it's helped you in any way, go down in the link below and buy me a coffee. Throw me $1, throw me $2. We greatly appreciate it. Just using it to keep this ship afloat. So thank you very much.